Welcome to a Wednesday walkabout, the first one of 2022. If you haven't watched one of these before, it's a more casual approach to videos than I normally would put out there. And I just basically take you for a walk around the homestead and see what we're getting up to. I've been spending most of my time in the potting shed because we have all our chili seeds in here. This might look a little different to the last time you saw it on my garden update video with all this foil. This is just basically insulation. Also managed to get a little latch on here, but yeah, this is some insulation that I have up against the panels on the ceiling and on the sides as well, and it does a great job. Obviously it would be ideal if I had it against the glass, but then it defeats the point of this being a potting shed and it wouldn't let any light in. Now it is midday and that means the lights are off, but I can manually switch them on so we can get some light in here, and there we go. But yeah, sneak peek in there. Plants are doing well. It's almost time for me to take the lids off these propagators, but I don't know, maybe in the next day or two. We'll see how it goes. Obviously you're always fighting with some ungerminated seeds. You don't want the lid off until all the seeds have germinated. But they're doing well. A couple little issues, but we'll talk about those in a future garden update video. But yeah, I spent a lot of time in here. I'm most tracking the plants, mark them down in Seedsio, which ones have germinated and which ones haven't, and any other information or interesting things. I post up some photos and that sort of thing. Let's go have a look outside. We've recently had some serious winds, which, me being in Lincolnshire, we don't really have much protection of it. That's why we have such big hedges around here, because it does create a bit of a windbreak. The problem is where there aren't any hedges, like this field. This field allows the wind to just howl, and if you notice here, that's just fully exposed and the wind just pummels my greenhouse. Now this is the greenhouse where I've had lots of issues building it and all that sort of thing. And no surprise, I've also had issues with the way these windows work. As you can see, I have taken off the pistons, so I've disconnected those, and I've strapped these down so the windows don't open anymore. What was happening, the wind was blowing so hard that these windows were just banging up and down, and stupidly, these auto vents, that part up there is actually sitting against the window. So you can hear that. It's just ridiculous. And I could just see one of these breaking if it continued like it was. So I had to go and take all these pistons off and put some of this nylon cord. It's basically elasticated nylon cord, and it stops the window from opening up. I just needed something that I could very easily take off when I do need to stick the pistons back on. So I didn't want to strap it down or anything like that, but seems to be doing the job. I'll try and stick a clip in here of what it was like the other day when it was just seriously windy. It was, yeah, crazy. Also, I just want to show you something. Obviously, I've emptied these out. I realized something. I'm kind of defeating the purpose of having a lovely greenhouse. I ended up buying one of these really cheap, and I have my plants sitting in here and they are loving it. So this allows me to have a microclimate within my greenhouse. I have a heat down there. That one will actually be used in my smaller greenhouse to keep the frost away, but I thought might as well just use it here for now. And this keeps the temperature in here about 10 degrees Celsius, so at night it turns on. During the day it's perfectly fine. In here this never turns on. Got a thermostat down there. But these plants are doing really well, much better now that they're out in the sunlight. So yeah. This way I actually save electricity. Even though I've got the heater on, I had a little heater in there, but I don't have to put lights in here anymore, and there's a perfect amount of sunlight, at least for the stage of growth that these are at. So yeah, not too bad. I think this was like 20 quid, 25 quid, but being indoors like this, it'll last a long time because the wind's not pushing it and the plastic should stay intact, at least for a few seasons. That was the little heater that I had inside here, which was on pretty much constantly because this space is actually bigger than that space there. So it kind of made sense just to move things over there. Let me show you what a proper greenhouse should look like. Just again, take note, that is literally the whole mechanism. This window is light as well. It's a single pane compared to the windows in there, which I'll show you. Those are all double paned, so a lot heavier. But even with them being heavier, they actually have, well, let me lock this because the last thing I need is that flying open. But yeah, you can see these are a lot heavier. And even with them being heavier and unlikely to be rattling open and closed, they have storm locks on them. So if I want, got this lovely thing, I can just pop down here, and that holds that closed. So yeah, rhino greenhouses, I wish they made a bigger greenhouse. I would have definitely bought it instead of that one over there. Okay, well, you might have noticed something else here. I was going to skip past it, but that will be getting used in a few months' time, or a couple months' time. Decided to save my back some hassle and use a cement mixer to mix my soil. It just makes a lot of sense. I don't want to break my back. These are all ready to go. I still haven't got my automation in there just yet. I need to still set that all up. Just haven't really needed to do it just yet, but probably next month I'll start putting all the stuff in. Actually, middle of this month. It is already next month. It's February, so middle of February I'll start putting my automation in. You can see it's all pretty much set up. I've got all the drippers set up on these manifolds, so I just need to get them wired in around the edges of the greenhouse. The temperatures are still quite low. Today it's actually fairly mild, comparatively speaking, to some of the days that we've had recently. I'd say it's probably about 10 or 11 degrees Celsius. What's that, about 50 Fahrenheit, I guess? But it's nice just being outside. Yeah, I can't wait for spring to be out here a lot more often. I'm looking forward to getting into the raised beds over there as well. You can see the hoops. I need to still put some netting on those hoops and save my plants from some caterpillars and bugs, especially the cabbages that love to get eaten by all the caterpillars and bugs. Gonna go have a look at the compost. Got a lot of it, and I'll show you. I'm gonna process this a little bit later in the season. Again, be using it with the cement mixer as well to mix it all up, but before that I need to actually sieve it out. So this is my compost. This is majority of the compost from my chilies that I emptied out in a video a couple months back. We still have a couple of months before this is properly composted down, but got a heck of a lot here. This stuff is mostly reusable as it is, but I will mix this in with my existing compost here, as well as some amendments like I use. So yeah, won't be long before we get into this, and I'm looking forward to using my rotary sifter. I've had it for a little while now. I expected to use it last year, but had no real need for it, but it does do a good job. I've been spending a lot of time looking after my worms. I want to try and increase the yield that I'm getting from them. I already have a lot of really good compost there, but I've just started my third big bin. Actually, it's 4 bins really. But as you know, I have plasterers, a couple plasterers bins. Sorry, I'm just closing the gate here. I have a couple plasterers bins that I'm using that are massive. I think 240 litres or 220 litres. And 2 of them are pretty much full, and I started off a third one. The third one I was just using to store my cardboard and the browns that I add when I add my vegetable scraps. But let's take a quick walk down there. So let's have a quick look in here, see if we have the little mouse in here again. I've had a little shrew or something hiding underneath here. It's nice and warm for it. Not today, but yeah, this is looking good. This is the final feed that I've done here. I've just covered it over with some extra scraps, some cardboard, that sort of thing. But this will just be left to get down to business. I don't want to really unsettle it too much, but if you have a look inside here, still got loads of worms, and it's not too muddy in there, which has been a problem for some of my compost bins in the past, they've been a little bit too wet, but this year got some really good compost. If we have a look in here, look at this stuff. That's just crumbly, beautiful. So that'll be definitely added in to my compost mix. This is a little bit further along because it's the first bin I started. But this is the next one that I've started. And so we're doing, see there's a lot of greens and big pieces of veg, but it should have a decent amount of activity starting soon. All hiding away. Worms are never happy when you start a new bin, but they should be fine after a little while. And this is my fourth bin, my worm tower. We have a look underneath. See loads of worms in there. So this bin always doing well. Put quite a bit of coffee grounds in there that I got from Starbucks. If we go one layer down, that's mostly composted. Still loads of worms doing their thing. But they'll certainly be far more active once it gets a bit warmer. So that's it. Nice little walk around the property. It's obviously going to be a bit more active in the coming months once things start coming out of the potting shed and plants start going into the greenhouses and I start getting my automation set up, and yeah, everything starts kicking off in spring. It's awesome. I hope that you're having a fantastic start to your season, and I look forward to seeing you guys on the next video. Until then, stay spicy.